these are the 2.1 notes. This goes over the environment and how it affects our economy, and how the economy affects our environment. Make sure that you title it 2.1 Economics Notes. Alright, so what is economics? Some of you have this class, some of you don't. It's the study of how we use our resources and how they're distributed amongst the world or different cultures or within a certain community. First thing is supply and demand. We demand a certain product and the company will supply it. Sometimes there's a lag on this. We demand to have something now, but the companies can't make it fast enough, just like the Lorax, or they don't have the supplies for it. Eventually they'll catch up and the supply will meet the demand. And that's called equilibrium, when the markets tend to move toward that. Oh, make sure you write down the red. Write down the red. I'm going to move slides again. Alright, so how does it affect the environment? It's because we depend on these goods. We depend on the big one being the timber, lumber, wood. We depend on it for lots of things, housing, paper, and it's just like in the Lorax. It is considered an umbrella species. So we rely on it, animals rely on it, we need it for oxygen. So we can't just cut down all the trees, it's not going to work like that. A lot of times we'll farm it. We'll only take so many trees and plant so many other trees. Other things that we need, like water, specifically the fresh water. There's certain areas like Nevada that don't have the fresh water that they need. Well, they do, but they're starting to run out. So it's becoming a resource. It's limited. There's different servicing that we need, the purification of all of these things, selling bottled air, so to speak, and then nutrient cycling, the problem that we have with the carbon dioxide and the oxygen. It's affecting our economy. Harmful economic things that hurt us or the economy, big picture, is obviously looking at the factories. It's specifically harming our environment. It's causing more greenhouse gases, which is causing us to warm up. There's also other things that can hurt our economy, which is the short-term costs, but they can hurt the economy because all of a sudden the business will go bankrupt. People that relied on it will no longer have it anymore. So we have limited resources, and the economy wants to continue to grow, but we have to figure out how to do that without completely destroying our environment. Alright, so how do we do this? How do we not destroy the environment, but still grow economically? We can't do that unless, we can't do that unless we have a sustainable environment, something that we can keep renewing, like the trees. We can make it sustainable if we keep planting the trees and keep taking care of them and not cutting down more than we actually need. Not necessarily want, but need. We're going to have market failure if we don't have a sustainable environment. This is the Lorax. He did not have a sustainable situation, so he had a market failure. His company failed because of it. That shows how the environment affects the economy in that case. Alright, there's other types of non-market things that we value. So rivers for recreation, things that are part of the forest. We appreciate it for beauty, for entertainment. It can be for scientific purposes. We use it for teaching. Hey, I did. Woo! And it's part of our culture. Going hiking and, mountain biking, things like that. So it doesn't have a money effect on the economy, but it's part of our lifestyle. I'll come back to that. Alright, last, sustainability. Recycling is a big thing. That will help us become more sustainable, because if we reuse those materials before we cut new ones, then we won't use the new resources as fast. It'll help save the resources and save the energy, which is becoming very limited. The commons. This is going to be based on the Tragedy of Commons game that we're going to play when these notes are due. So if you're looking at these notes in time, here's the answer to the game. The commons is a resource that's used by all. So in the example of, I can't think right now. In the example of using one resource from everybody, you have yeah, we'll use the cafeteria. We have the cafeteria. It's used by everybody. There's not actually a specific person that's paid to clean up the cafeteria. You're actually expected to clean it up yourself. But it's a tragedy of the commons. No one cleans it up because you're all too busy talking and you want to get up and leave. Tragedy of the commons is that you turn around and look, there's a huge mess. Now it literally can't just be left. So people that aren't paid to do it, clean it up. We can't pay people. We don't have the money for that. And the special ed kids clean it up. You're leaving a mess for someone else to clean up. Tragedy of the commons. It's the way that it works. It's pretty depressing. One of the things that we have the tragedy of is when we look at the resources that we use every day. Air, water, oil. We have certain laws that help protect these so that they don't fall into the tragedy. The oil part and natural gas, we're tearing up our environment for it. And that is an issue as well. That is a tragedy. It can be abused if there's nothing to actually regulate, if there's no government to regulate it. It's the same thing with the Lorax. No one was there to protect the forest. Okay, the Thorax was, but he didn't do a very good job. And people have their own agenda. They look out for number one, and they don't care about others. This is the issue. Going back, part of this is making labels. Making labels and consumer responses and making something popular will make people listen. That's why one of the problems with carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, it hasn't become popular because it doesn't have a cute little label. The Energy Star shows that that system is energy efficient, and people will use that energy efficient system because it has the star on it, and they know that they're doing their little part to help the environment just because of a fancy label. So it really is unless you do something, you're going to make the difference. It was the quote that Dr. Seuss had. I'm looking for it. But unless you take the step out to do something, no one else is going to care about it. It's one guy that had that idea. Alright, make sure that you wrote the red down. Make sure that you go through it all, and you have it before we do the Tragedy of Commons game. If you have any questions, please let your teachers know.